much, and I'm very grateful to the Diplomatist and to all the organisers and sponsors of this important webinar. And I'm grateful to you for inviting me in particular. As you say, I have worked closely with Boris Johnson in the past and in more recent times as well. And he very kindly put me in the House of Lords last year. So I think I'm here to give a sort of UK parliamentary perspective on the roadmap 2030, and to give it the support that all of us want to see. All of us want to see it succeed. If we look back over the last 70 years, India has transformed itself enormously. Its agriculture has been transformed. It's become an industrial superpower, and now it's one of the world's leading players in the tech revolution, while retaining its national characteristics, including its hallowed democracy. India has made fantastic economic progress. And the reason I mention that is that while India's success and transformation is something that everybody around the world has noticed, it's easy to not to notice how much the United Kingdom has changed over that period as well. 70 years ago, we were a country focused on the extraction of natural resources with a strong manufacturing base and a society divided clearly between a large, mostly unionized industrial workforce and a small managerial class, subject to heavy regulation and central direction. We were also in decline. Thanks to the dramatic transformation and reorganization of the economy effected in the 1980s, we're now an economy much more based on services, we're more globalized, and our social divisions, or at least the ones we talk about, are more concerned with identity and with grappling with the consequences of globalization and its social and environmental effects than they are with class and economic standing. So Britain has changed enormously too. And Brexit has its place in that context. I was and remain a passionate supporter of Brexit. And the first reason was to rescue our democratic self-government. That's something that Indians will be very understanding of, given the firm commitment to democracy the country has shown in the past and today. The second reason is a little bit more of a gamble, but I think we can be more successful economically outside the European Union because we can be more flexible, we can reach agreements more quickly, and I think we have opportunities now that didn't exist before. So we are a partner looking for friends. We are looking for people to go and strike deals with, which will be mutually beneficial. And I think you will find that the British government will bring a great sense of commitment to the talks and to the whole process that is set out in the roadmap. There is another reason why the UK and India should, in my view, have closer relations, and that is to do with foreign affairs. Outside the Middle East, which one might come back to in a moment, the key threats to democratic stability at the moment, and for some time to come, are Russia and China. The whole democratic world is agreed on this. And even in America, China policy was one of the few things that Trump and Biden could agree on, for example. But the EU is a notable outlier on this and has a policy of cozying up much more closely to China with new investment agreements. And Germany in particular is very forgiving of Russia's aberrations, and the pressing ahead with the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline is a prominent example of that. And of course, it's not possible to discuss global affairs at the moment without some reference to what is happening, what has been happening in Afghanistan. Yesterday, Parliament in the UK was recalled for a day of very strong and powerful debate about what has been happening there. And it's not merely the disruptive threat that a militantly Islamic government might give rise to. We will have to see how that develops. We will have to handle it and manage it as we go ahead. It is more the questions that the episode raises about the US role in the world that are more troubling. And at the very least, that means that all democracies should have a renewed focus on finding ways of collaborating in a wide range of areas to preserve freedom and prosperity. So with that strategic and political background, we come to thinking about the UK's and India's view of future relations with each other. Now, as Kevin said, we already have a very strong and growing trade relationship. And in the year before the pandemic hit, as Kevin said, bilateral trade between the two countries grew at a very vibrant 11%. And our investment relations support over 500,000 jobs in each other's economies, including many UK jobs in tech and telecoms. We have a strong and well-established series of joint fora in which the two governments discuss global trade. There's the Joint Economic and Trade Committee, the India-UK Economic and Financial Dialogue, and now there is the UK-India Financial Markets Dialogue as well. And all of this now has to be brought together and understood in the context of the Roadmap 2030, agreed by the two prime ministers earlier this year. All of these encounters in the past few months have produced individual initiatives, the details of which you are as familiar with as I am, but they tend to cluster in the areas of food and drink, financial services, high tech, and infrastructure investment. We have a great deal to offer each other in all of these areas. The immediate agreed ambition is what is being called an enhanced trade partnership, and in the course of time, and not too much time, I hope, a full free trade agreement between the two countries. This approach shows that the UK on its own can move fast and flexibly to make partial agreements that can achieve easy wins for both sides, and it should make it an attractive negotiating partner for India. There will be many shared strategic concerns which could allow a degree of cooperation that respects Indian neutrality. We have much that we have borrowed from each other culturally, and of course, British people of Indian descent play an important and increasing role in our politics and our economy here. At the moment, both countries are grappling with the terrible effects of the pandemic. Both are leading the world in finding a way out of it through mass vaccination. When all of this is behind us, however, I'm confident an ever deeper relationship can be promoted that will benefit both countries. Now, since I see that I've got a minute or two left on the clock, I'm going to add just one or two words of advice, if I may, which apply to everyone involved in trying to make this work. And that is simply to say that in the United Kingdom, there isn't a sufficiently broad focus as yet on the value of improved trade relations with other countries. It's not just India, but with other countries. I think you have to think of us as a country which used to have trade at the heart of our politics. And if you go back 100 years, there was an election in 1906, which was entirely on the question of free trade. The populace was engaged with issues of trade policy. But over the last nearly 50 years, we've outsourced our trade policy to the European Union. So to some extent, we have lost the habit and the language and the understanding of trade issues in our domestic policy. And that applies as much to many politicians as it does to the policy. And so I think a case needs to be made and an argument needs to be made to raise the profile of the importance of trade in itself, the importance of free trade over protectionism, and crucially, the importance of India to Britain's future trading relations. And anything that people involved in this webinar or on the Indian side can do to think collaboratively about how they can enhance that message in the UK, especially as the pandemic recedes, would, I think, be very helpful to promoting the goals we all share of a free, open trading relationship between our two countries, which I look forward to seeing very much, and I hope increasingly well before we get to 2030. Thank you very much indeed.